Okay, good afternoon again, everybody. Welcome back to the Signum Webathon. So now we're going to talk about the Signum Graduate Program. And I am joined today by Paul Peterson, who is one of our language faculty. He's been part of the leadership of the graduate program for years now, and it's been since 2017 you've been teaching here?
That's it. Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. 8 years of, and it is so much. I remember, Paul, when you arrived, was really kind of the growth and beginning of our Old Norse program, which has been so popular. We've had so much demand for our Old Norse program since then.
Yeah, Old Norse, Germanic philology, Old English, you name it. We've been, you know,
Didn't you teach
having a
Old
field day
Saxon
on
one
it.
year?
Oh, that's it. And some Gothic, just for fun, for funsies, right? It's yeah, we've been pretty successful on that front. Like I think we had the largest Old Norse group back in like 2020 out of the entire world, I think
Yeah,
that year. So like
yeah.
all universities of the entire world, Signum was the capital of
It's
Old Norse studies.
it's one of the things people don't appreciate is that, like, not only do we have what I suspect to be the only growing Germanic philology program in the world, but we also have already achieved the largest Germanic philology program in the world. It's been just so cool. And I remember that semester when you taught Old Saxon, I was like, okay, come on now. How many Old Saxon courses are being taught on planet Earth? Like within a 5 year span here.
Yeah, not many, especially for us in the English speaking world. And
Right.
like that was a fun adventure because the cool thing is like people don't know that that's the same language as the Anglo-Saxons pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dialect continuum, and it's like, well, how cool is that? We can read cool stuff. Like so that was a follow-up to our Old English
Mm-hmm.
sequence, and we're expanding and growing and all that. So yeah, we've been having a really good time with Germanic philology, and I hate to so Sarah's not here to defend herself, but we have our concentrations, like our Tolkien studies doing very well, always a strong
Yes.
resource, and Germanic philology, not like we're in competition,
No,
but
because
like
it's not like we're going
we
to have Lit and Lang competing with each other or anything.
not at
No,
all. So
no, no.
but we've certainly found a few people that are like, I didn't know that this was actually what I really want to dive
Mm-hmm.
deeper into. And then,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, sorry, it's a gateway drug. You've been
It is.
hooked. Can't help it. Yeah.
It
It's
is. It is. There are so many people who have, through reading Tolkien, become medievalists. I'm certainly one of those.
Mhm.
That's how I became a medievalist, was through reading Tolkien. But even then, more specifically, there are many, many people for whom Tolkien has been the gateway drug to Germanic languages, and have really discovered that love. I remember when we first started doing Old English and Germanic stuff. You know, people back then, this is like 2015, something like that. People are like, oh, so what do you teach at Signum? And I'm like, well, mostly Tolkien studies. And they're like, well, that's very specific. Are you going to expand your curriculum? And I'm like, yeah, we have a big expansion coming up. We're going to start doing Germanic philology also. And they're like, not only is that deeply weird, but how does that even make sense? Like, why is that the next logical thing? And I'm like, well, it pretty much shows that you don't read Tolkien if it doesn't make sense to you. Like,
Mm.
people who read Tolkien understand perfectly well how Germanic philology is, in fact, the logical companion field to Tolkien studies.
It certainly is. And Tolkien was one of the best philologists of recent centuries, and his work is so deeply intertwined with, he uses the philological method almost
Mhm.
like it's his plaything, which is
Yes.
just proof of his mastery, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we have a great debt, on all sides of the equation, kind of like, well, where is Germanic philology not thriving in the world generally, but we're doing pretty well, I would
Yeah.
say. So
Yeah. And it's been one of the
yeah.
wonderful things about, again, this is that kind of thing is exactly the sort of thing that I hoped for when I founded Signum originally, right? I
Mhm.
was talking in the State of the University address about how my initial excitement to use online education to be able to overcome boundaries of geography and to overcome limitations that most people just can't go down to their local community college and learn Old Norse. Like, you just can't do it. And but and again, it seems so counterintuitive to people that we would have an entire program that is based on Tolkien studies, Germanic philology, imaginative lit, and classical, medieval, and Renaissance literature. But when you are able to bring together everyone in the world who wants to study those things, in fact, like, you have and I think that there are way more. I think that there's a lot of room for growth in our graduate program as well. As I said at the tail end of the State of the University address, that, given the fact that such a small percentage of the population can really commit to graduate studies, in-depth graduate studies. Most people just aren't there, and that's sort of not what they're here for. So it's a smaller demographic, but still, around the world, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people who really are excited about that. And I think the more that we're able to kind of get Signum's name out there, and the more people see what it is that we're doing, the more excited people are going to get. Talk a little bit. Now, I know you've taught in our space program. Many of our faculty have been teaching in our space program as well as in our graduate program. Talk to people a little bit about sort of like the differences, right? I mean, so maybe you start off, you take a space class or two, right? You can learn Old Norse. You've taught Norse, haven't you, in space?
I haven't taught Old Norse in space, but I know that we are kind of working in sequence with each other, so that it's a great area to kind of explore and get some preparation, and then you dive into. So the biggest difference then is, like a monthly space module versus, commitment for 3 months for 12-week courses. And they're regular graduate level rigorous, like language courses will have exams, often a paper if it's an advanced language course. Space is more about just the fun hardcore translation side of things, for example, for the language courses.
Right. You do translations and discuss them together. Yeah.
Exactly. And in truth, though, the difference isn't so massive in workload for a student, because if you want to learn a language, it's time and effort.
You're going to have to invest in it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So the way that our graduate program is also different is that we would be on like that hybrid. We would have pre-recorded lectures for the majority of the courses. So then there's that additional component, if it's an advanced course, or a literature course, it's going to have secondary readings and such that wouldn't be expected of a space student. But I think that we talked about the gateway drug into Germanic philology. Well, I think a space module works equally well in that regard. So if you take an Old English module, for example, with Larry, who's on like the 15th month in a row or whatever of Old English readings. And, it's like, I haven't even heard of all of those texts that he's reading at this point.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to town and having a great time.
It is not going to be long before Larry Swain will have taught the entire corpus of Old English literature in space.
It's true. It's true. We're not far away from that. So one of the big things that we do, one of our highlight courses, I mean, it's an older one, which is good, and it's steady, and we love it. It's like our Beowulf translation seminar. That does take a graduate level course to read the entirety of Beowulf in 12 weeks. That's a little bit, it's nearly a religious experience, religious-like experience to do that much text in a single, regular semester. So we do kind of our basic structure is, like, how many courses do you want to take? Space modules are great, and we're working together to kind of, if you're not interested in an academic endeavor, that doesn't mean that you don't get both out of either program, because we do still have things like discussion auditing, and we have students who are kind of popping in. So, for example, if you already have an advanced degree and you're not here for the degree or the diploma, then that doesn't mean you can't participate. In fact, we have a healthy number of great students who are coming from other areas, from other fields, and doctors, lawyers, you name it, everyone under the sun. And we have had a lot of geographic growth in areas that this is a more recent development, maybe over the past few years, we've seen Australia lost its Old Norse program. It has a weakened Old English department. The major universities there, they're not doing well. Also, areas like South Africa, like these
Mhm.
are not offered at the universities anymore. So we're getting students from areas of the world. It's like, wow, this is really cool, and we're all meeting together, with people from, I don't know, to me it's boring because it's home, up north Minnesota, as we call it, all the way to Australia and New Zealand and Thailand and Japan and beyond,
Mhm.
right? So we're all
Mhm.
kind of hanging out in one space, and that's the beauty of this type of study, is actually the closest equivalent to an in-person graduate program that exists, and in a field that here is thriving.
Yeah.
And the outside world be damned. We can't do anything about them, but we can control this part of our lives and our
Exactly.
universe, right? So,
Exactly. Yeah, we're
yeah.
not. I sometimes when people when there are stories like that, of like humanities programs being axed or like Old English being
Hmm.
axed in Australia or whatever. Um, when there are stories like that, you hear people like people will kind of like do like an outrage circulation of the story, like they'll like do an outraged repost, of a story that talks about that. But there's underlying that, there's a lot of like helplessness. Like, what are you going to do? What, protest? Are you going to go call the school and tell them they need to reinstate Old English? Like, it's not going to happen, right? Like, it's so well, it's one of the great things about Signum. We can do something about it. Like, as you say, we can't do anything about that, but we can offer it here, and we can continue it and nourish it and let it continue to grow. So, in addition to the fact that the courses, they tend to be more intensive in the sense that you're doing more work, and this is especially true in the literature classes, like the difference between somebody who is auditing and somebody who's taken a space class or a series of space classes and somebody who's taking a course in the MA program is that the like 25-page paper comes due at the end of the term, and you're not doing that in space, right? So you're actually so it's more intense in the sense that you're probably doing more written work, taking exams, things like that. And therefore having to work to an intensive schedule over the course of 3 months. But in addition, there's the focus in the graduate program is also sort of more self-consciously oriented towards training people in scholarship. I mentioned in the State of the University address, one of my favorite things every year is our graduation ceremony and hearing from our students and the work that they've been doing, and hearing from the faculty. And just to see these people, many of whom would never have had the opportunity to study this stuff at all, but who have been able to study it at Signum and emerge from the Signum program having done legitimate research, legitimate textual criticism in some cases, translation work that hasn't been done, and really just really entering the world of scholarship.
Yeah, it's true. And speaking of that, I mean, we've had students go on to PhDs. I mean, it's not an equivalent program, like it's not a step A,
Mm-hmm.
do a Signum Masters, you go do PhD, but we've had students who have gone on to PhDs from
Yep.
our program.
Yeah.
Particular countries allow that option a little bit better than others, I will say.
Some have
The
more red
UK.
tape, and some, yeah, the UK. Anyone who's been to one of our regional moots knows Sam Lewis. Um, Sam Lewis is the Iron Man of regional moots. He has presented a paper at every regional moot I can remember for like 3 or 4 years. He, of course, was one of your students in the Germanic philology program, and he's doing his PhD at Cambridge now, from his Signum MA.
Of course. So, yeah, and I mean, also just kind of talking about like the research angle and publications and that sort of thing. Like we're kind of doing our best to train students if they want to. You can take on that role. Obviously, it's a difficult. Academia is broken.
Yes.
That's why we're here,
Academia,
actually.
exactly.
Academia is a
Because
problem.
academia, it's one of the things I was saying in the State of the University address is that, like, I'm tired of, like, it's time for us to be done pretending that we're normal, right? Especially
Yeah.
when normal is broken. Like, who wants to be normal when normal is as dysfunctional as it's becoming? Right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the areas that we also would do, I'd say another huge contrast then with the space program, which we love because the content, it's got a great diversity of topics and areas. And one thing is that we do go into a lot more depth then on that angle where we're pushing students towards a capstone, a thesis project. I call it a project. Sarah would call it just a thesis. I say project because it's a little bit broader than just a pure thesis. So we
Right.
have
It's
kind
not
of
just the
two.
production of a document. Yeah.
Correct. And
Yeah.
it's sort of, obviously we're pushing this towards that high level research angle. So when I say project, I'm talking about the Germanic philology stuff where it's like you're doing an edition, an unedited medieval manuscript, and you are translating it and writing this super thorough, comprehensive
Yes.
introduction that's like 30 pages, single spaced.
Making an Old Norse text
Um,
available to the public for the first time ever. Yeah.
Exactly, and it is an old trope that we do digital humanities, but of course that's also one of the layers. And then also just because Germanic philology is old school in the best way, we still are encouraging classic production of editions, translations. So that's my area of expertise. Of course, it's not 100%. But yeah, I mean, that's really where we see students exploring their own interests to the fullest, right?
Yeah.
And then with our staff, our faculty are mainly PhD experts in their areas. We have a really strong team.
Yes.
So that's where I think the magic happens, is students get to explore in depth into all of these different options that we have. Obviously, I mentioned the two highlight concentration areas that are, but and beyond, and kind of how does this all mix together? And students have a lot of free choice in that, and that's exactly the way we want it to be.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. No, it's really exciting to see. So yeah, when we talk about going deeper, this is the kind of thing that we're talking. This is what deeper looks like, right? This is the kind of thing. And when people, as you said, gateway drug, right? When people get started in this, that desire to go deeper, that desire to be involved, to say like, I don't just want to be able to, like, maybe they started taking Old Norse. Maybe they start with like one of Dr. Anderson's Old Norse classes in space, right? And they begin to learn how to translate Old Norse and begin to read in Old Norse. And then the next thing, you want to do more, right? You want to get involved. You want to be, and then the next thing you know, you're in the graduate program, you're doing your thesis project, and you are now a scholar who will be credited by other scholars for many years, right? For the work that you're doing.
It's one of those things where it's sort of like, I imagine the perspective of the students, and I'm like, oops, I accidentally took Gothic. That's sort of like, you wake up and you're like, well, how did I land here? Well, let me tell you a story.
Right.
How do you accidentally happen into a Gothic class? But I think it's just kind of the breadth that we also are exploring kind of within these areas of maybe forgotten scholarship of past past days, still growth areas, still a lot of unexplored territory, and there's still a pretty vibrant, healthy population across the world that are enjoying these classes. So
absolutely. Absolutely. So let's, in practical terms, just so that people understand the scope of this and know sort of what's involved. The MA program, master's degree, Masters of Arts program, requires 12 total courses, right? So you've got the regular classes that you take, right?
Foundations.
Yeah.
One of the required kind of, it's our intro course. It's a very comprehensive, like, this is how to do graduate school work. This is sort of the areas to, pretty critical for like learning citation styles and bibliography and all of the above, like really necessary stuff.
Yes.
And then I think it's 8 courses of Lang and Lit choices. You pick your concentration area of choice and kind of dive a little deeper on those.
And everybody takes at least a little Lang and at least a little Lit, right?
Correct. So if one is very interested in literature, great. We will still teach you a couple classes in the language side and vice versa. And most students mix and match very liberally within those choices in a good way. And then it's a 3-semester capstone thesis project.
So it's really the thesis process is in depth, not just in the sense of like what is expected, right? The kind of work that people produce, but it's also a protracted, a prolonged mentorship process.
Yeah, absolutely. And, culminating in something like, well, giving an hour presentation, which is, like cream of the crop presentations
Yeah.
too. I mean, our thesis leaders are like, holy cow, these
Yeah.
are brilliant individuals, each and every one of them.
Oh,
Um,
I recommend to folks to go to Signum's YouTube channel and check out our thesis theaters, because we have a whole bunch of our thesis theaters there. It's the thesis theater is what we call that presentation when the students complete their thesis projects and sit down with their thesis directors and present it. So cool.
yeah, and I think that, some of these projects, obviously these are usually connected to their coursework. Of course, a lot of free choice. We're including all of the faculty, active, slightly less active, former friends and such of the university are participating in these. So we're kind of getting the top scholars, if you will,
Yeah.
chosen to supervise these. And yeah, they're turning out really great. And we used to have for those who did the program a long time ago or started many, many years ago, it was a 2-semester process. We've expanded it to 3. That gives that chance to kind of improve the writing, because we found that this is not something that works very well in 2 semesters.
It was a little intense in a less good way back in the old
Yeah,
days. Yeah.
and it was undue burden, let's just say. So we found a way to kind of work this into the advantage of the student, and great results from that
Yeah.
continued experimentation, if you will. So we're always trying to find ways to make our program more successful, and that is absolutely proving to do that. So.
Yeah, that's great. So we have someone who's attending live on Twitch who's doing it just exactly right. Like this is an awesome version of the Signum University experience. It says I took Intro to Old Norse while pursuing the graduate diploma in Tolkien studies. I'm now taking the Old Norse reading space modules and working on a paper that focuses on Old Norse and its connection to Tolkien, focusing on the character of Eowyn in the tutorials program. So there you go. There you
Exactly.
go. Sometimes the gateway works one way, sometimes it works the other way. But like whatever path, to be able to pursue the stuff that you want to do, and it's so cool to see people, students who are doing work in their classes and bringing that forward to publication for the first time. It's so exciting to see people coming in and get people who have just been taking space classes, or people who are in our graduate program presenting papers at moots and things, and it's really cool. And I really I'm excited to see more people take advantage of our tutorials program as a way to like if you've written a paper and you're thinking of publishing it, that you can get one of our faculty to work with you in the tutorials program to help to polish and expand your original essay into a publishable article. If you've got an idea for something you want to talk about at a conference, you can do a tutorial for a month or two to develop and expand and refine your talk and your presentation. Lots of possibilities there. And again, and our MA faculty is such a wonderful resource and really kind of sort of sitting at the middle of all that.
I'll segue here just really quick. It's an abrupt segue a little bit, but about our structure of our program, because we realized that maybe a 36 credit master's is not necessarily what everybody would want or
Right.
need to get. We do also have a scaled down version, which is a diploma program, which is like cut it in half essentially.
Right.
It's a five course program, plus the option of still doing a thesis, which
Right.
is actually
Right.
really
You
cool.
do a capstone project if you want, and there's even more flexibility about the kind of thing you can do there, right?
Yeah, and we've just noticed it's a very individualized circumstance, right? Where we do have a lot of students with advanced degrees already in hand, and they're not here for the full program. That's great. They still get the same variety of course choices.
They can take classes.
And on the functional side of things, it's possible to sort of change your mind and go and stay on with us as long. We'll take your money because we love having you as a student, and we love, right? But the choice can be made later to upgrade your program, and we do have many students doing that. also the option to kind of take your diploma and run when you need to for life circumstances. We obviously understand all of those too. So
Absolutely. And as I was talking about a little bit in the State of the University address, most of our students, we don't have any students who are taking classes full time. Everyone is doing other things, and it's very easy, or at least we make it as easy as possible to, take a class, take some time off if you need to, come back and take another class in a semester or two. That's Many people come in, I think, feeling sort of inhibited, like, I don't know if it's okay to, like, that's not only okay, it's normal at Signum, because we understand, like, we're we're here for life. We understand you have a life, right? But you still want to do this, and we still want to make it possible for you to do this.
and I think we actually proudly say that I think our average graduation timeline is about 7 years or so. And
Yeah,
like that's a good thing.
it's
We
a good
love
thing.
having the students around for as long as they need to be with us. It's
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And again, it's not like it doesn't cost any more to take longer. Like, it's you're paying by the class, so it's just about, being able to manage things and to make sure that you're still having fun and having a good experience all the way through.
And I think we could also just talk about, the financial burden of a master's degree in general and how ridiculously inexpensive we are by comparison to any and other peer in this entire universe. So
Yeah.
it's the cheapest version you can get of such a comprehensive program
Yeah.
on our planet Earth, and also because, well, we're biased, of course, but we love this stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so do our students. So it's a really positive experience, and that's what we've been, successful in for so many years. So
Yeah, exactly. It is it is normal for graduate courses to cost several $1,000s each. That's the normal going rate on the market in universities, and it costs well under $1,000 per class for a Signum class. So it is a fraction of the cost of other places. Plus, again, we can be flexible with how it gets spaced out. If you need to do one class every other term, we can handle that. Yeah, awesome. Well, that is. I wanted to come back because we mentioned it, but I wanted to make sure that people understand about discussion auditing, because you mentioned that. So sometimes people just want to sit in on the class, take part in it. They want to be there for the magic, right? But they like. I want to participate in the class, but I can't write the paper. Like, I know I'm not going to have time to write the paper. And I don't need the degree anyway. But I want to commit to the class. I want to do the reading. I want to have the discussions. I want to be involved. We do have an option for that, which we call discussion auditing. So you can participate in graduate stuff at lots of different levels. You can take the classes for credit. You can be a discussion auditor. You can, there are many of our classes that we have recorded sets of lectures from, which you can just get the lectures and listen to those at your own pace. You can get them at the Signum store. You can get them, some of them through our old Anytime Audit interface. Still, we're still transitioning all of those videos over. But anyway, yeah. So the graduate program has, in addition to the wonderful synchronous stuff that happens, has been producing really amazing content to watch and listen to for a long time, and all of those are available for you to get if that's the level of intensity that you're looking for. Awesome.
yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of awkward to think of ourselves as content creators in that space, but that is essentially what we did is our MA courses. So the lecture content is available in
Yeah.
two places currently, shifting over soon to be in a single home. But yeah, we have great experiences with the students that are, I believe they're also given access to like the shell of the Google Classroom and such too, and even in the asynchronous model. Synchronous model, it's sort of a hang out like an auditor, like auditing any college course or master's level course. It's really great because obviously when I'm doing the language courses and such, those students are participating equally. They just don't have the burden of the graded stuff, right?
That's
So
the
they get
written word. Yeah.
all the fun and none of the tedium. So it's a really good experience for them. So
Yes, there are a lot of people who have really enjoyed that, including many people who graduated earlier and can't take classes for credit anymore by law, but they can continue as discussion auditors. So,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. Awesome. And that's the kind of student body we've always had. It's been really fun. Awesome. Well, thank you, Paul. We got to dash on to our next segment here, but I really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining me to talk about our graduate program, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what continues to emerge and how, especially the Germanic philology stuff that you're involved with, and our Tolkien studies and our lit area as well, to watch as that continues to grow and develop as we move forward.
Glad to be here. Yeah, it was fun chat.
Very good, thank you. All right, so as before, I'm gonna stop the stream briefly, and then I'm gonna come back. And when we come back, I'm going to be joined by Dr. Maggie Park, and we're gonna talk about the Signum Press and Signum Studios. So, speaking of content creation, we'll be back for more of that soon. So stay tuned, and I'll be back in like 2 minutes at most. Thanks, everybody.